All right, welcome back. We're glad you're still with us here on Morning at NTV. I am told the corridors are on fire. The conversation about NGOs and the politics within continues there. We hope that we do not register any incident that is not worth reporting. Let me return to on set rather and take note of the second national dialogue on anticipatory action. Wow. That is something. And of course, we have a guest who will be helping us understand this particular dimension. But before I introduce him, Uganda's second national dialogue platform on anticipatory action will take place from the 22nd to the 23rd of May 2024 under the theme Navigating Uncertainty, Disaster and Climate Risk Financing. This year, the overall purpose is to foster collaboration, dialogue and strategic planning among key stakeholders with a view to enhance a capacity to mitigate against the impacts of climate change hazards through proactive measures. I have with me on set Brian Kanaahe, Director, Disaster Risk Management at the Uganda Red Cross Society. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Morning, Chris.
How are the corridors as you came in?
Quite well, quite well.
Okay. Discussions are always very fiery many times. I'm glad this particular one is not, and it's something that offers us a little bit more comfort to understand how anticipatory actions are being rolled out by the various stakeholders led by the Uganda Red Cross Society. If you don't mind, give us an overview about the second national dialogue on anticipatory action and its main objectives.
Thank you and good morning. This is the second national dialogue on anticipatory action, which is it's a biannual event.
Ah, okay.
Yes, sir. It's a biannual event where majorly you are looking at anticipatory actions, which means, you see, quite often we have talked about disaster response for many years, very many years. So, boom, a disaster happens, you do a response.
You deal with that.
You deal with that. And you, after the response, maybe you do rehabilitation or reconstruction. Now we are saying, no, before the disaster, because a disaster is sudden and it outweighs the impacts of the community.
That's right.
It doesn't have to be all the time. So disaster, we know that there is a window of opportunity to do some preparedness and act before the emergency happens.
That's right.
So that is what we call anticipatory action. All the actions that you do before the emergency happens.
Preparedness.
Yes.
Okay.
So community preparedness, or if anything, you forecast, you know that this disaster is going to happen within a lead period of 30 days, others are short, maybe 10 days, others 15 days. But what are those actions that you do? So the second national dialogue's main objective is number one, to take stock of what happened and our commitments that we had to deliver as a country in the first national dialogue. But number two, there has been a lot of innovations and very good practices that both the government, the Uganda Red Cross, the key partners of WFP and the FAO have been able to do in this country over the last 2 years. So we want to take some key lessons. But also number three, it is about also what are the key learnings that we as a country and also as both the donor community, the private community have learned over these last 2 years to be able to make meaningful actions at the community level. Okay.
Let's stick to what the action points were on the very first national dialogue that was held in 2022 and be specific about what has been achieved and what can be built on.
Thank you. The main outcome from the first dialogue on anticipation was meaningful partnerships, having meaningful partnerships to be able to scale up these actions.
That's right.
And practically over the last 2 years, for example, the government of Uganda and the Uganda Red Cross and FAO have they scaled up a protection project for the El Nino preparedness and response in 10 districts. So that's a practical, meaningful partnership that took place. And these 10 districts are the usual ones that are highly disaster prone. The other ones has been, the other one was scale up local actions in terms of putting in place community early warning systems. The Uganda Red Cross in collaboration with government of Uganda has been able to put up 16 community radios. Majorly to be able to disseminate information. To disseminate the information at the local community level. And also we know that in terms of technology, we have 8 river gauges. These are terrestrial river sensors that are all over the country, whose job is to fast track and send this data to the Uganda Red Cross and also to the Met, our friends at the Met, to be able to make the better forecasts and scale up technologies.
Okay. When it comes to community-based interventions, especially when regarding aspects including first response, usually that's where the problem is. And by the time the actors, including Uganda Red Cross Society, the army or any other person that come in to help, the first responders always have so many challenges to deal with, a lack of knowledge on how to do what and where to begin from. I do not know whether the interventions that you're up to, including capacity building, does focus on the ability of locals to do the right thing when disaster strikes. Because during that time, panic alone can, for example, lead people into doing the wrong things because you're wanting to save somebody, but also putting yourself in danger, and then you cause disaster upon disaster. What is the capacity building model for local communities when it comes to anticipatory action?
Thank you. So on that, if I may start straight on the issue of if you're going to do training, you better have a curriculum. You better have a curriculum. And the government of Uganda and the Red Cross and even other partners have contributed to development of the national disaster management curriculum. So which looks about the different skills, search and rescue, psychological first aid, many other things, essentials of disaster management at a community level. So that one is there. And the model has been, one, you work with the local communities. First, identify the area that is at highest at risk. So right. The government of Uganda through OPM put up the National Risk and Vulnerability Atlas, which shows all the districts over the 135 districts and their different hazards. So which one is top? So it is easier for you to pick if you want the first 10, the first 20, because it takes back historical records as far back as 50 years ago. Okay. So it can easily forecast and tell you which districts are highly vulnerable. Then those districts are trained in the different aspects of search and rescue and response. But in particular for the actions, for anticipatory actions, during the first national dialogue on anticipation, we launched the steering committee, technical committee that is multi-stakeholder and multidisciplinary, coming with the representation from faith-based organizations, local governments, INGOs, Uganda Red Cross, to be able to put up a team whose job was to identify what are those anticipatory actions that are appropriate for Uganda.
That's right.
There was like the integration of traditional forecasts into these whole anticipatory actions. So the model is encompassing, looking at the local communities, what are the policies, understanding the national disaster management policy, the existing technologies in terms of how messages of early warning come to our phones, or right. how they reach to us through different community radios. Yes, sir. All
right. Keeping with issues technology and the effectiveness and speed with which these messages are disseminated is a challenge. Disaster most of the time affects far-flung areas where technology itself is a problem. Adoption has become a problem. I don't know how that has been tackled or what particular specific interventions are there. Let's say, for example, Butaleja, where rampant floods, it is a known thing. They're going to happen at one point in time. But the people who are affected are not onboarded when it comes to the use and interfacing with the technology that is required in early warning systems and disaster preparedness. And this is a fact on ground. I don't know whether it's a case of lack of funds, an inability to engage all stakeholders to do the job the best way possible. I'm afraid I'm going to have to put you on the spot on that.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
And I get where you're coming from. We use our heads and our experiences. We think that this technology is appropriate for Butaleja, where you know that there will be occasional flooding, and you take it there.
You arrive, and it's totally different.
And then the community are not involved in it. such technologies and such experiences, usually they have showed us that usually that doesn't work. And for an institution that is linked on members and volunteers, for the Uganda Red Cross in particular, if I may bias you a bit.
That's right.
It's before you develop this technology, you first have to do some feasibility studies to understand where these people are coming from. What you are calling a technology, you may find they already have it.
They already have it, yeah.
Two, it is also, you don't want to put a technology that will be called the government's technology, or the Red Cross, or the FAOs, or UNDPs, or WFPs, you know,
that's right,
thing. So it's, the model is how you get the right community that is affected, you train them, that is the capacity strengthening. Let them set up their own SOPs, like these community radios. You talked of Butareja. We have 2 community radios there, which are actually housed at someone's home. One of the survivors. And how did that come? It is because the people were consulted and they said, we prefer this place for obvious reasons. It is near the center of all of us in terms of radius. This person is credible to us. We trust him that this equipment will stay. So that is the approach that we take.
All right, so in terms, when we talk about the second national dialogue on anticipatory action, I'm sure there are so many players you've invited to this particular platform to be able to map out the best possible ways. Any actors that we should look forward to interfacing with?
This second national dialogue convened by the government of Uganda and with the Uganda Red Cross, WFP and FAO, we'll see high-level participation with the opening done by the minister, the Honorable Minister for Disaster Preparedness. We'll have, we're expecting 15 members of parliament. Because there will be policy and legislation to talk about. We have invited institutions like FAO and WFP, and also those outside the country who will talk about machine learning and other innovations in the technology to be able to send messages to the local level. We'll also have survivors of, survivors of...
those stories are always important.
Absolutely. People with special needs, and also the members of the the Uganda Climate Alliance, where they are making significant contribution from the oil and gas sector in this field.
All right, thank you very much, Brian Kanaahe, Director, Disaster Risk Management at Uganda Red Cross Society, for enlightening our understanding of matters intervention with regard to disaster and climate risk financing. That national dialogue will be held, where is that? The venue?
Munyonyo Speak.
Munyonyo Speak, okay. All right, make your way 22nd to the 24th of May. That will do it for Take Note, and indeed this edition of Morning at NTV, 21st day of May 2024. It's been a pleasure having your company. The discussions that we have here, I hope they do embolden a lot of your understanding of matters to help you make the best possible decisions. I'm Chris Higenyi. Have yourselves